Good morning. We have another lesson on changes in ecosystems. Today we're going to hear about how animals adapt to the changes in their ecosystems. Can you already think of some ways that animals themselves make some changes? And plants, but we're going to mainly talk about animals. So there are adaptations that they make that we're going to hear about. For example, if their climate starts to change by becoming colder, over time, they have possibly more fur, thicker fur to adapt to their climate. So we're going to get into that and how there are, sadly, some animals that completely become extinct because of the changes that happen around them. But beginning with some talk a little bit about those gradual changes in organisms, especially animals. Now, ecosystems change all the time. You've learned that when an ecosystem changes, some species may no longer get what they need. As a result, those species move away or possibly die. But the changed ecosystem may have just what some other species need. So even if it's negative for some species, it might be good for another. Those species start to move into that new ecosystem. A gradual change in the kinds of organisms living in an ecosystem is called succession. We were talking about beaver dams the other day. When a beaver dams up a river, that changes the ecosystem. There might be some organisms that do better in that still water that happens when they've walled off a portion. And so it actually can help other organisms, even if it is harmful or changes things for the organisms that did like the rushing water more. For example, remember how a field that was once farmland can change into a forest. This is an example of succession. Okay, so farmland changes into a forest. How does that affect the organisms? Can you already think of some ways that it might affect it? Both organisms that would not like it and new organisms that would prefer to have the forest land. So grasses in the field would be replaced by shrubs and trees, and the kinds of animals living there would also change. Succession also can happen after a sudden event greatly changes an ecosystem. For example, Mount St. Helens is a volcano in Washington state. Its eruption in 1980 killed thousands of plants and animals, but within a year, seeds blew into the area and started to grow. In some places, shrubs had stayed alive the whole time. Some animals also lived through the eruption. Other animals moved in as plants started to spread. And this actually can be better for the plants that are starting to grow, that they have richer soil and the ability to really grow well after that eruption. Here it shows some wildflowers that were some of the first plants, it says, to grow after the eruption of Mount St. Helens. Scientists are still studying the area around the volcano to learn more about succession. Succession in general means something follows another. So this is referring to what happens when there are changes in an ecosystem, what follows. Right. Now, sometimes special body parts or behaviors help organisms stay alive when their environment changes. The organisms pass these helpful features on to their young. As a result, over many generations, the whole species changes or adapts. Features that help organisms survive are called adaptations. Do you say adaptations? To adapt is to change in order to fit into an area. So adaptations are the things themselves that help them to better fit into whatever this new environment is. For example, a polar bear's thick fur helps it survive in a very cold environment. Some fish swim in large groups. This adaptation makes it harder for bigger fish to catch and eat one of them. So these are natural instincts that the animals are born with to adapt to their environment. Sometimes a species cannot adapt to changes in its environment. As a result, that species possibly would die out altogether. A species is called extinct when its members are dead. Can you already think of some examples of extinct organisms? you know of some animal species that are extinct? In our book, it talks about the dodo specifically as one species of birds that is no longer existent. Dinosaurs as well would be an example. A species is called endangered when it's close to becoming extinct. So extinct means they do not exist across the entire earth. Endangered means they are close to becoming extinct. Sometimes people step in to help those endangered species. There's a lot of organizations around the world to protect those endangered species. But sometimes it's just part of the cycle of life that some of those become extinct altogether. Now, we can learn about extinct species from fossils. Fossils are preserved remains of once living things. So any organism that we still have remains of in whatever way, those are called fossils. Do any of you know of other endangered species or extinct species? I'm going to look up some of the endangered species right now. It's always changing, but some of the endangered species right now are, looks like we've, in worldwildlife.org, I'll present it so you can see some of the ones that are endangered. The Amur leopard, the black rhino, an orangutan, a couple of gorillas, hawksbill turtle. I know some of us were reading about different types of turtles in reading groups, and we heard about the hawksbill sea turtle before. Oh. So another type of rhino, the Sumatran elephant. African wild dog, Asian elephant, a black-footed ferret, blue whale, bluefin tuna. Okay, so a few types of dolphins, whales, pandas, sea lions, sea turtles, tiger, whale, just in general. It looks like giant tortoise, giant panda, which is what you see up here. So those are all endangered species. I know a lot of you love to read some science books or watch YouTube videos about them. So let me know in class after this video, whether it's today that you have class after watching this or the next day. I'd love to hear some things that you have learned about endangered species or species that are now extinct altogether. Okay, you have some notes to take. Let me double check. I think it will be tomorrow. And yeah. So that's all for today. You'll have some notes to take on this tomorrow. Talk to you later. Bye.